Hello, comic book readers. Welcome to another episode of the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club. This is episode 26. If you are new and you join us for the first time, we are a book club for people who like to read comic books. We take a different story arc or a collected volume every week. We all read along together, and then we gather via these live streams, which go out on YouTube and Facebook every Wednesday to share our thoughts, views, reviews, and opinions. There we go. That is who we are. What we are reading this week, just to remind people, is we are reading The Court of Owls from DC in 2011. This was, of course, written by Scott Snyder, and the art was by Greg Capullo. I think people knew that already. I'm pretty sure people knew that already. As always, folks, I'm joined by my co-hosts, and they are Phil from the YouTube channel Phil's Nerdyverse.
Ahoy, ahoy.
We have Shane from the YouTube channel Dawn of Comics.
What's up?
And we have Scott from the tiny cabin in the middle of nowhere, Scott Shelf.
Hello, I'm that dedicated.
How are we? We all good?
Good, mate, thank you. How are you?
Excited for this one?
Yes.
I just noticed, though, we are number 26, so that's half a year.
6 months, mate.
Yeah.
This is our 6 month.
If you remember a few episodes back, I mistakenly thought that was the 6 month mark, but it's not. This is because I am shit at maths. That's why. All right, folks, let's meet the herd then. Let's meet who's here and see who's participating for this episode. We have Tom from This Month in Movies. He's joining us here. We have TB Collect saying no. I'm just scrolling down. Hold on, because this chat jumps around on me. You know it does every week. We have Liam Cartwright saying evening, folks. We also have Comic Bound Gangsters. What's up, guys? We have Highland G joining us. Howdy to you, mate. I hope you are well. We also have the Noob joining us saying good evening. We have our friend Firehawk. Hello to you. Beth is here. I haven't missed you, Beth. I've got you again. Don't worry.
Got her this week.
Yep. We got Daryl joining us. Hello to you, Daryl. Welcome. Captain, ahoy to you, Captain. We have Adam and Caroline joining us as well. This list, Tom's confusing me because he's appearing on Facebook and YouTube. We have Andy from Perpetual Comics. Howdy, Andy. Hope you're well, mate. And I do believe, Scott, you usually pull me up if I've missed anyone. Am I good?
All good, mate. Did you do Captain Comics? Did you do Captain Comics?
Yeah, I did, Captain.
Yeah, great. Great. Everyone's
Come
here.
on. Pay attention.
Sorry, Welsh Wi-Fi.
He's still got vacation brain. Leave him alone.
Oh, bless him. All right, then, folks. Let's get this started. As usual, we're going to kick off with a synopsis, and that's usually given by the person that chose the book. So, Phil, this one's over to you, mate.
Yeah, so this was the I was going to say the debut of Scott Snyder on Batman. He did do the Detective Comics run, but this is Scott Snyder relaunch of Batman: The New 52, and basically Batman who thinks he knows everything about Gotham and every nook and cranny of Gotham doesn't, because there is this secret society, this secret kind of legion or court of owls, if you will, that have existed for generations, and Bruce Wayne Batman has to discover them, and basically he's next on the list for to be hit, to be scrapped off the face of the earth. And yeah, it's just fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
There we go, folks. That is your synopsis for The Court of Owls. And to start us off then for this episode, it has to be Scott.
Great. Okay. For a person who's not read a lot of Batman, I enjoyed it, right? But I don't understand the hype of it. Yes, it was a great book. I enjoyed it. Really good read. But I think I'm kind of missing something. Maybe. I don't know if it's the fact that, a lot of people here, including yourselves and a lot of people in the chat and stuff, you've read Batman for a long, long time. You know what he's capable of. You know what he's done. You know what he hasn't done and all this stuff. But, I wanted to ask someone, how much of a big deal was this? You know what I mean? Him, finding out all these Court of Owl bunkers and, that kind of thing. What, am I missing something? What am I missing?
you've kind of like Scott Snyder's kind of introduced not just a bad guy, not just a villain, but this whole secret society that's existed for hundreds of years. That the Batman, who should and does know, or at least he thinks he knows everything about Gotham. He's always one step ahead. Like Batman's got the plans. Even in the book, the part where he's fallen from the building, and I think it's the second issue, he knows there's a certain gargoyle there and he's going to jump on it. He knows where to go type thing. He knows everything about Gotham. But the fact that he didn't know about this, like, it's a pretty big deal in that Talon isn't so much the villain, it's the Court of Owls as such, who obviously, what's the word, like, nominate a Talon each time one dies and so on.
Yeah,
so
this run kind of like it really, it's instrumental in creating another layer to Gotham, really, isn't it? It creates another kind of underbelly of Gotham for Batman.
And I've done it too for Dick Grayson as well as Bruce himself. Like Dick Grayson's obviously was earmarked to be a Talon essentially, so it kind of helped that character as well. So in terms of the Bat family and the Bat books, it definitely added more layers.
Yeah. Just to say hello here to John Block Comics as well. Thanks for joining us, mate. And Firehawk, yes, Scott is in a tiny house.
I'm literally in a tiny house. It's 2 meters by 7 meters, and I'm here for the week. I'm having a great time.
It's on the 13th floor.
It's on the 13th floor of my house. But maybe that's the case, and I think it's the fact that, like, everyone who reads Batman has been reading it for so long, and it's like, oh my god, there's been this thing in here the whole time. You know what I mean? And then I'm jumping in now, reading this, and it's just like, oh, okay, it's here now. You know what I mean? I've not been reading it for years and years and years to be like hit with this thing. Like, there's this secret bunker. That's where I am now. A secret bunker of just this society all over Gotham.
I was interested to see how you would, because I know you haven't read a lot of Batman, so I would have thought this was a good jumping on point with it being a #1, with it being the start of a story. So I was quite interested to see if you would enjoy it more, not knowing the history that came before New 52, and just sort of read this as is. So it's quite interesting that you think something's missing. So I think you probably do then, in fact, have to have a little bit of history with Batman. This isn't a fresh start as DC thought it would be.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I can understand your concerns there, Scott. I think because this kind of does kind of focus on the history of Gotham, and like you said, that's been there kind of all along. I think it does help if you've been reading a Bat book for a period of time for this to slot in. I do agree with you, Shay. Don't think this isn't a great stepping on point, in my opinion, for a new reader.
No,
it's kind of like watching. Well, someone has been watching a series of something, and then you jump in on the last episode. Something massive happens, and you're like, "What was that?" And everyone else is losing their mind, kind of thing. I think that's where I am.
Let's just see what the comments are saying here. Comic Band is saying, I feel like this story ticks a lot of boxes of what makes a good Batman story, mixes new with old, and has great action, but a true detective story at its core. That was one of the things that I wanted to bring up, is that this is Batman at his finest. And for me, when I say that, because we've all got our own different favorite versions of the Bat, and for me, it's the detective. Like, the best stories for me involving Batman are when he's detecting. The punching stuff is cool. It's awesome when Batman goes for it. But the detective in Batman is where those stories, and this is one of them for me. Yeah. Like, this is a detective story.
Yeah.
That's why I love Batman too. Like, in terms of, like, if you're like a casual fan, or say you've watched the movies and you love all the punching, the fight, and the action stuff, that is all great. But ultimately, for someone who likes Batman, this is the real reason why you like it, because it's just clever. Not just Batman himself, but the story and the way it's kind of built around the fact that Batman's able to uncover all this whilst being held captive in a labyrinth for 7 days, whatever it was. Like, it's just he is the detective, isn't he? He's version of Sherlock Holmes. So
Perpetual Comics is saying this is a monumental Batman story and one of the pivotal comic storylines in existence. It's no Black Mirror mind. Yeah, I do agree. I think this is a pivotal story for Batman. No, I don't think there's any getting away from that for me.
No, it includes something that's just so big and so wide stretching that it's still going today, isn't it? You know, the characters still exist, the story's still there. It was something new that was added that just everyone really enjoyed, so it stuck around. I mean, about 10 years ago, and we've still got Talons, and it's.
Oh, totally. I think it's carried forward nicely. Off my shelves is saying it's all about stripping that one constant of the character, which he knows he's and plans for every eventuality. But in this, that's all taken away from him and stripped him to his basics of active. And I think that's spot on. I think the point when this came out in 2011, there was that. I think we had a bit of a cocky Batman, like Gotham was his kind of thing, and I think Snyder did real good in bringing Batman down a peg or two there. I completely agree. I think that did take it all away from him.
I feel like Scott Snyder has a deep respect for Batman. You can tell the way he writes him. But on the other hand, I feel like he hates him as well. Like, he really punishes him. Like, he wants him to go through it. At some point in this book, it kind of just looks like a Batman snuff film. Like, he just goes through it. Like,
well, the copy that I read, because I read this in the trade format, and at the front of that, it has a little note from Snyder in there about how this got started, and he says that he was on a bus in New York, and he had a phone call from the boss who brought him in. And like as Phil said, he was writing Nightwing, I think, at the time. I think it says at the beginning of this book. And then they asked him to write Batman, and he said he was absolutely terrified. He said he was okay with Nightwing because there was an uncertainty about that character anyway. But I think that translated over into the Batbook. Like you said, I think there's a respect there, but there's an uncertainty around Batman. It's like there's a lot of things that you thought were pretty solid before appear less so in this book. You think?
Yeah, I can see that he's tried to. I mean, Batman's one of the characters. Like, there are very few things you can change about Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. They're the staple. They're the Trinity. You can't really change too much. So, going in on an issue 1, he didn't really have a clean slate. He wasn't allowed to just do what he wanted, but he did really well with what he was allowed to do, if that makes sense. Because for an issue 1, you would think, I get free reign, but I don't think you can't with characters like this.
Highland G's just saying, I started reading comics again with New 52, and even if you ignore this as a book that changes things, it's a good fresh foundation for the books to come after it.
Well, this book, this is the hardcover. This is the first comic I ever bought. I remember buying this book, the second one. So I did jump onto Batman with this. Now, I read Batman when I was a kid. I vaguely remember some stuff, but in terms of collecting books, this was my jumping on point, was Batman New 52. And to be fair, I remember reading at the time, similar to Scott, like I wasn't overly like the Court of Owls is unreal. I just love the story for what it is. And now going back and reading older stuff as well, kind of piecing things together, it is quite, as Andy said, like monumental in terms of like, you can do Joker, you can do Bane, they've all been done to death, but this was like a real threat. Like, this is something that the fact that Bruce Wayne, Batman, didn't know what this was, even though all the signs pointed towards the Court of Owls, the old wives' tale, he just refused to accept that because he said he looked into it but couldn't find it. It was a big deal for that.
I think what this did for me was that it made Gotham seem dangerous again. Like you said, Phil, we were used to kind of those villains and stuff, and I remember this kind of made Gotham seem like a dangerous place again. Realistically, I think the familiarity was broken at that point with this.
You definitely get the sense that he didn't know what was going on. He didn't have control of the situation. He was all just stripped back, and he was like, "What do I do?" You know what I mean? He just didn't have a sense of control. There was nothing there.
It's kind of like the original, like kind of like an origin story, but not an origin story. Like, you can get Batman back in the mindset of his early days without actually having to rewrite any of his early days, which was quite clever.
Let us just check the comments here as well, because we've got a few rolling in. Liam saying, I wouldn't say it's a bad jumping on point. I'd read some Batman previously, but not a lot at all, and I jumped in here and really enjoyed it. Comic Bound follows that up with, yeah, I would have thought it would be a great jumping on point. It feels quite accessible. That's not to say that veteran readers won't get a bit more out of this than newcomers, but that's natural. It's a good point. It's a good point. And Tom says, really enjoyed how the story arc showed Batman as a detective, not just as a badass crime fighter. Even when he's in the core of Owl's maze, he spends time learning the maze and piecing things together. And see, we have, hang on, it's jumping down on me. Off my shelves, Greg Capullo on art was such an amazing choice too. Absolutely stunning artistry, so confident and dynamic. Let's get to the art. In fact, folks, let's do it. Let's jump in. As always, everybody has selected their favorite page. So, Phil, do you want to start with yours, mate? I'm just trying to find your page.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, the whole labyrinth scene where he was in the kind of maze for so many days, like the whole thing, I loved that part of the story. It's probably the most pivotal because we mentioned kind of stripping Batman back down. At this point, you know, throughout this whole scene, he's obviously seeing these owls, or he's lost his insanity, he's lost his mind. There's two people here, but they look like owls to him. Like, it's just kind of portraying that image that what he's seeing isn't reality type thing. But this whole labyrinth scene where he's like losing his mind, he gets to the point where he almost wants to accept death, doesn't he? Like, it's like, okay, just do it. I'll just accept. I'll give in. Go to light or whatever he said.
Yeah.
Like, they broke him down to a point where he had no choice but out of desperation to kind of fight back and so on. And I think this scene just kind of shows the kind of torture he's going through, like, you know, the anguish through what he's seeing. Even this little girl, the doll, like how she really is compared to what he's kind of seeing almost. But yeah, the whole labyrinth scene was great because, as I say, he was almost a breaking point, almost accepting death, and that's where he kind of got his second wind and was able to subdue Talon for a spell, and straight from being able to do that, things calmed down, and then the detective kicked in, his intelligence kicked in again, all through from...
I think what you're saying there as well, Phil, like what I found quite exciting about this book is like you really feel Batman comes, you know, within like a gnat's whisker of actually dying in this book, like that he's not coming back, you know.
Yeah.
I think the brilliant thing is about that, I think it makes you... The way the writing is done and the art is done, I've got to give kudos to the insanity they've instilled in Batman, and it kind of makes us kind of feel it as well. And even like this page was great, and I remember turning the page and then like Batman was getting crawled on by that little girl with a doll there, and she's still in this kind of owl form, not girl with mask. And I even had to turn the page back myself, and I was like, wait, like what, like is this real? Like it was even messing with my head as well. So kudos to that, definitely.
The whole scene too is whenever they had the orientation of the book, I don't know if it was in your copies, but you had like turn the book around to read it and stuff, and then turn it around again to read it. Did you have that? Oh man.
No.
Moving on, man. Scott, I believe that one's yours.
Yes, I love this scene. This was in issue 2, like towards the start of issue 2, was it, or was it issue 1? I can't. No, definitely issue 2. I just loved the motion of it all. It was just fantastic, and you could really, for me, this whole like bike, helicopter, train scene was just mental, and I could really follow the motion of it all. And I just really enjoyed, like, Batman. He's quite confident, but in a cocky way here. Like, you know, he jumps onto the train and he's got that little smirk there, and he's like, he knows what he's gonna do, and he's like, yeah, Alfred, don't worry about it. I won't be a minute. Like, I'll be there soon. And I just loved it. And like, you know, yes, I've read Batman for more before, but you know, this is an issue 1, and this is a kind of, you know, a jump on point. So I think this is quite a good introduction to Batman as a cocky, great, you know, smart guy, and then from this point you just see him crumble, and I think it's just great. Yeah, but yeah, definitely, like, this whole page, just the motion of this page was great.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the beauty of this book. You know, you really do see Batman broken down from cocky being the right word. I think, I think there is that element in there, that discussion where there is that thing about Gotham is his, it's his city, and then the fact that this thing was there all along really does kind of show him, I think, that a lot of what he thought was real about Gotham isn't, you know what I mean? Like, it all has been taken for granted so far. And that's when I think it all starts to crumble, So I think you're pretty right there. Shane, how about yourself, mate? You chose this one, I do believe.
I did, yes. It's right at the start of the first book. I chose it for multiple reasons. The first reason being my favourite villain's there, Professor Pig. I love that he's got.
I've never heard of this guy.
I love that he has a pillowcase on his head tied into ears, and he's got Professor just safety pinned to his shirt. I just think it's fantastic. He's such a fun, interesting. Fun's not the right word. He dismembers people, but he's an interesting character. But also, I picked it because it's just this group of everyone in Arkham, all the bad guys, and you can just see Batman's smug face in the bottom corner because he knows he's just gonna trounce a lot of them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many there are. He's gonna take them down. I just love it.
It's a great introduction as well to. For myself, this kind of thing. Like, obviously, I know Scarecrow, Two-Face, Mr. Freeze. I'm assuming that's Killer Croc at the top there, and then you got these other ones as well, like these other characters
Riddler.
like Professor Pig. Never heard of him. Oh yeah, Riddler's there. It's a nice little refresher because you're gonna know these characters. Like, even if you haven't read the books, Batman's that big. But it's nice to see some other characters I don't know there, and to know the fact that these characters are still going to be in Batman's world despite a new reboot from the New 52.
I think that those characters don't really play any part in this particular volume here, do they? I think that's a demonstration of just kind of how I think the Batman that we're used to. I think they're going, this is Batman, like, as you know him, fighting these villains. And I think that was clever putting that in because they didn't have anything to do with the story, but I think it was there to show us this is Batman as you know him. These are the villains that he fights. And then all of a sudden, again, that rug is pulled from under that. It's like, it's not those villains that are controlling Gotham. It's actually something that was there all along. And Batman's whole belief that it was his city and he knows every inch of it is completely wrong. That's a huge kick in the teeth, I think, as far as kind of Batman goes.
I think that's how Scott Snyder was clever. The fact that they are some of his most fierce villains in the years gone by, but they, like I said, they didn't play a role in this whatsoever. Now we're on another level where it's not just about fighting and beating and scheming. It's like, no, these are running the city. You think you are, but we're running the city essentially. And I think that's what kind of makes the stakes higher for Batman and makes the Court of Owls a real kind of hard, mysterious villain to take down.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Shane.
I was just going to say the fact that they showed how easily Batman could defeat all his old villains. Like, he's faced them all so many times now, they're not even a threat anymore. So that's why he needs a new threat, and the Court of Owls is that tenfold.
Liam is saying, I would definitely recommend getting a physical copy if the digital versions don't have the orientation changes that Phil's talking about. It might seem minor, but it adds to the scene. I totally agree. The point where Batman is like drugged and tripping out, and it adds to the vibe of the book for sure.
So you have to turn the book to read it.
Yeah, I think I'm so used to them doing that in comic books. I don't think I actually noticed. I just... When you read a comic, they do it so often now. They just bring out the landscape. You just turn the comic.
The thing is, they had the landscape, but then they had another one where you had to turn it again, so it was upside down. It wasn't just landscape.
Oh, I was probably so engrossed. I'm probably just. I don't care. I just need to read it. I don't care which way it is. If it's upside down, if I need a mirror, I'll figure it out. I'll read it.
Tom saying he had to lock his iPad when we were reading this. And After Showers, I think, Scott, this one's to you, saying if you read Morrison's Batman and Robin, you'd never forget Professor Pig. Vomit emoji.
That's where I met him, and I fell in love with him. He's awesome.
There we go. My page, folks, I chose... there were so many to pick from, if I'm honest with you, in this book. I mean, Greg Capullo's art is just absolutely phenomenal. I think everyone in the chat here is agreeing that the art on this is just phenomenal. And rightly so. It just looked beautiful, like the character designs. I know there was some debate in the chat there about the character design of Talon. I know some people liked it, some people didn't. I personally loved the design of Talon. But one of my favorite pages in this book was, of course, it has to be from the part where he's in the labyrinth. So I chose this one. I just love that. It just, to me, just summed up like that moment for him. Like, you got that giant owl bearing down on him. He's like drinking the water, which is like drugged. And then if you look at the reflection in that like bottom panel, you see it all distorted, and it's, you know, that's the part where it all starts to, you know, the reality bleeds, I think, for Batman at that point.
Well, can I mention, I don't know if it was this page or like a page before or a page after, that they mentioned the fact that how Owl's eyes work, like one stays in focus and one like whatever is, and then you see the Batman hit one of the white of his eye of his helmet is out, and you can actually see his eye, but the other one is actually normal. I don't know if that was a nod to like
the plate cracked, isn't it, in his eye? Yeah.
But is that a nod to this owl biology kind of thing?
Oh, it must be. It must be.
Yeah.
It must have been done. Yeah, it was a bit too obvious to not be, now that you've said it.
I just think there's little nods like that. That's why I think Snyder was just quite clever in this the kind of craft of this book. I think there's a few things throughout that you just kind of think, yeah, that is really smart, because he didn't have to put it in there.
But what I liked about that page particularly, I think, was the lack of color as well. Like the part where he gets to the labyrinth, it almost felt like all of the color had been sucked out, which kind of felt like maybe that's how Batman was, like all the hope was like just sucked out at the same time, you know, like it definitely kind of felt a little bit like that to me. And that switch just felt imposing, like real big time for me, for Batman.
And it's great too, because he obviously wanted to stay in the dark. That's what he was trying to do, stay in the shadows, stay in the dark. But they obviously have these big, bright, fluorescent lights that you have no mission finding shadows in here. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Yeah, the labyrinth part for me was fantastic. Like that whole, it was trippy, it was surreal, and you know me, I like a bit of kind of weirdness in my books, and that just ticked all those boxes. And the whole struggle of Batman while he was down there was just absolutely brilliant for me.
Even the part where you mentioned drinking the water, like, yes, he was really thirsty, so he took a drink. He knew rightly there was something wrong with it. I can't take it, but he needs it. But I still think, in hindsight, like, that's just him being the detective. Yes, it turns out he was able to taste that the water has certain minerals or something. So, it must be near Gotham Harbor, because the water tastes like it's from there, type thing. But I just think that's always him trying to find a clue, trying to be a detective. What can I get as leverage here to kind of get my way out? So it's not just desperation for the water. I think he needed to taste the water. He needed to do it. You
don't get the title "The World's Greatest Detective" if you don't know your minerals. You know,
taste. By taste, though, I mean, come on. I think.
So what do we think of the writing overhaul then on this? Like, do we feel Scott Snyder did something amazing? Did we feel that it was? I know, Scott, as a new reader, you're kind of like, I think you struggle. Maybe amazing might be a bit too much.
No, I'm not sure if I got off on the wrong foot with it at the start. Like, don't get me wrong, this was a fantastic book, and the writing is amazing, the story is amazing, but I feel like I didn't get as much of a wow factor as like veteran readers who are like, who just know that Bruce Wayne Batman knows everything about Gotham and was kind of like blindsided by this fact that there's this other organization who have been in control this whole time.
Yeah. Just to address the chat here as well, Caroline saying she felt like Lincoln and Bruce looked a bit too similar. I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, Grayson did as well.
Yeah.
Their faces were very similar. My brother's not on tonight; he can't watch tonight. But he did say that when he read this, he thought that Bruce Wayne was drawn like Archer. Does anyone watch Archer? He calls him Archer.
I can see why you would say that. Yeah.
To be fair, with the art, I didn't like Bruce Wayne. He was too young and too clean for me.
He did look very neat.
So handsome.
He needs to be a bit more. Not that I'm talking about like looks, but he needs to be a bit more rugged or something. A bit more kind of hard lined or whatever.
You'd be
one
given.
scar.
You would think that he could be Nightwing. You wouldn't think twice if someone said this is a picture of Nightwing.
Yeah, I think you definitely got the clean cut, dashing Bruce Wayne in this, not the kind of ruggedy stubble Bruce Wayne.
And as well, the scene we're talking about the art and the faces, the scene where they had Tim Drake, Dick Grayson, and what's the other wee fella called? For his name, Robin. Damian. So they all did look quite similar. You know, the kind of short, longish type dark hair or whatever. It's just like it's hard to tell which one was which.
Comic Band is asking, did everyone read to the end of issue 11 or just the first trade hardcover? I read just the first one for this because I didn't want to have my brain muddied any further just for the discussion, because obviously we try and stick to what we're discussing. And Highland G, I agree with this, thinking this hits the nail on the head, a detective stuck in a horror story.
I like that.
I think that sums it up.
That's what Snyder was known for, wasn't it? His horror books previous to this. And even now, he still continues to write horror books. That kind of seems to be his thing. So to have that kind of mashup between Batman, detective story, mixed them horror is great. And Capullo's a man for that, 100%.
I love this comment that Highland Jesus put here as well. I think one of the most interesting things is that Batman uses Bruce to get gear and build hidden hideouts in buildings, but he never considered that anyone else would have done it the same thing before him.
He thought he was the first person to think of it.
Yeah. How did he not know that there was a 13th floor on all these buildings? I mean, if he knew everything about Gotham, I get that he might not have known about Court of Owls, but surely he's got schematics of every building in case there's a hostage situation and he ever has to go in there and save the day.
But he did know the rooms were there. They just didn't know they were used for the Talons because Alan Wayne built that and he kept the room there. The whole house, all the bad luck. That's why he kept that floor.
Wait a minute. Do you realise how long it takes to recognise minerals by taste? He's clearly busy doing other things than looking at building plans.
Got little thimbles full of water, and he's like, "That's from France."
For me personally, I thought that Scott Snyder did do something amazing in this. I really do. I love the character of the Talon and those little techniques that he put in. Like Shane said, there was a massive respect for Batman around this, but I think you definitely picked up on the uncertainty of not Batman, but of Snyder writing the Bat book, and that all fits into the crumbling around Batman for me, and those tricks that he used, like the labyrinth, and it's like everything that he put in there and wrote was designed somehow to break another layer off of Batman at some point. And I thought that was really good writing. That was solid, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was done in a respectful way. As much as I hate seeing Batman like that, like broken and beaten, he did. Was you reading this and was like, "Leave him alone, leave Batman alone"? I was like, this is. I'm used to seeing Batman win. Obviously, I know he gets. I'm not saying he's untouchable. I enjoy it when he has to work harder to beat a bad guy, whether it be Bane, Killer Crocs, Superman at times, whatever. I enjoy watching him have to build up. But I don't think I've ever seen him brought down that much and that hard so quickly. It was.
I feel like this is one of the things I've missed. You know what I mean? Like it's like, I haven't seen him how low he's been taken before. And
I mean, this is worse than Bane breaking him.
This is the bar now.
Yeah.
I don't know whether this is kind of like better or worse than that, but it's definitely up there. You know what I mean? When it comes to kind of like Batman being brought down, I think it's definitely as detrimental, I think, in my opinion.
I had said in the chat last night to you guys that since this story of Batman, there hasn't really been, well, there's other stuff in Scott Snyder's run, but in terms of like, since Snyder's left, I don't think there's been a Batman story. He's kind of reached this kind of level of threat, or kind of like, can be held up in the same kind of regard as this. This is, for me, is the last good Batman story that's come out, and it was 10 years ago.
What do you want about it? Are you saying Punchline isn't as threatening as the Court of Owls?
What about Future State?
I will say this is my second favourite of Scott Snyder's.
Death in the Family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's another one where he breaks Batman. He as much respect as he has, he just enjoys breaking Batman. He enjoys bringing him down to that feather away from death. You know, he wants Batman at the lowest, and that's what you get in this book. And I liked it because Batman then just claws his way back out. When you think he's down, he somehow, and I don't even know how, gets the energy to beat Talon, even though when he was at his full strength, he couldn't beat him. And it just shows how much he wants to live and how much he wants to protect the city when he just claws his way back, and that gives him the confidence that he needs going forward, which was great.
And you know that little girl that he was on about in the mask, I've never wanted a little girl to be punched in the face in my whole life. I'm going to come clean. Like, Batman should have roundhouse kicked her straight away. Like,
yeah, 100%. If any kid needs a kick in, it's that one. Yeah.
But in terms of like Snyder's writing, the reason why I think this game is quite clever in terms of helping bringing Batman down a peg is that the fact that he mentioned that since the death of his parents, that he has looked into the Court of Owls many times. He investigated them as a kid, and he hasn't been able to nail them. So that's why he's completely adamant they don't exist. They can't possibly exist because I would have known by now.
Yeah,
and the fact
his own pride got in the way.
Yeah, like that's kind of self-doubt and stuff as well. Like, it was just another mechanism to kind of bring him down.
Do you know what I thought was hilarious as well? Like, that his great grandfather, they thought that he'd just fallen down a manhole and died.
Even though he was stabbed like 30 times. It's like,
I was kind of like, when it got to that part, I was reading that, I was thinking, like, who was the detective that investigated that? Like, stabbing and murder, falling down a manhole. Like, they're not similar.
Maybe they kept knives down manholes back then. We don't know. They just keep them pointing up, so if anyone falls down.
This is the thing, didn't they? They found his body later on, didn't they? So they, was he not stabbed after he was down the sewer? Because that's why he found out that the limestone was on his bones or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, and there's that rhyme as well, isn't there? Where it says something like, "They're watching you behind." Is it granite and lime or something like that?
I've got it here.
Yeah, and I think he pieces that together, doesn't he? He's just like, okay, this is the spot.
Beware the Court of Owls that watches all the time. Yeah, and he was reading this as a child, and he still didn't believe. And like you say, he looked for them and just couldn't find them.
He's also a really sadistic child because he found an owl in the whatever it was in the barn or whatever. And he took an arrow to it, didn't he? He completely nailed it. Like, there was blood splattering the window and stuff. Like, what an evil kid.
I did quite like that though when he found the lair, because it's kind of like that rhyme is kind of like repeated quite a lot. And I think it got a little bit irritating. What was that? What was it we read before? And there was the rhyme that was kind of like. It was Kanto, wasn't it? When you kind of keep having the story and that. Like in Kanto, I could see the point to it, but in this, I was like, why do they just keep repeating this now? And then when he goes through that wall, that's when I'm kind of like, oh, okay, that's what that means behind granite and lime. Like that's where their lair is, Yeah. We got Tom here saying they found his great grandfather weeks after his death. Back then, they wouldn't have done anything with the bloated body. Tom getting all like scientific.
CSI.
Whoa, Tom.
Another weird thing of the art, and Stream of Coraline has mentioned it. The nipple pages were really weird. Like,
oh yeah,
they were unusually large nipples. It took a lot of retail on the page. So yeah,
which nipples are we talking about here? Should I even be asking this? Is this going to open a can of worms?
It was one of the talons, wasn't it?
Oh,
one of the talons. They had them on the table, and he's all like kind of deformed skin. They had these big, massive nipples and stuff.
I don't remember these nipples.
Good, don't
block them out or something.
They're too big to block out.
Matt from Mystery Nights, he remembers the nipples.
Never forget.
Never forget the nipples. So I'm going to ask a question then. Would you guys would you read on beyond this if you haven't already? Scott, let's start with you. Seeing as you're newer to reading, like, would you go and read the next bit?
I nearly did. I stopped myself. I was about to start issue 8, and I was like, no, gotta keep opinion free. You know, gotta keep everything just to this. I'm gonna keep neutral and. I nearly did, and I do want to read on. So I was impressed, and I did enjoy it. And you might find a new Batman convert in me.
Yes, because the next story arc, for those that don't know, I think is it the Night of Owls? Is that right? Yeah, it's the Night of Owls, isn't it? That goes on. Yeah,
it gets a bit weird. Like the next volume, in terms of like the trade paperbacks, runs on for 6 more issues, but the Night of Owls takes all the tie-ins from Detective and Batgirl and stuff, doesn't it? And I think it's like 14 books, I think, in total.
Okay.
21.
21.
Yeah, because I got the whole 28 book bundle, and the first 7 is this, and then there's 21 more then.
Oh, wow.
There we go. There's your further reading, folks. If you enjoyed the Court of Owls, I gotta be honest. Like, I don't think you could have written a better Bat book. I gotta be honest with you. At that time, 2011, you know, Snyder's coming onto that book. I don't think you could have done a better job, in my opinion.
That's the thing. There's been nothing since then that rivals it, and it is like I can imagine. You mentioned Scott Snyder being intimidated. I can imagine it's really hard to write a Bat book in terms of what's been before. Like, what can you do that's going to keep people excited and whatever? So I think you're right. You couldn't have written a better Bat book, and you can't now. Even the stuff now, it's good. It's not kind of groundbreaking in terms of like it's going to have a long legacy of stuff. Like, you know,
there's no Secret Wars.
No. Oh no.
Well, I think with Batman, you do get those stories now and again. You know, I mean, yeah, I'm a huge Batman fan, as you know. But you know, they do tend to follow a similar format of things. You know, and that's cool. We love that. But then now and again, you get one of those standout stories like Hush or something like that. And this is one of those standout stories. You know, I think that is fair to say, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. And for a first issue back after a reboot, I mean, yes, this is going to draw the fans in, and it's going to keep them interested.
It's in my top 3 of Bat books, along with Year One and Dark Knight Returns, and they're 2 pretty high regarded books. So it's in top 3 amongst them.
Yeah.
I think this is up there in you know, the top for me. I'm not actually thought about where I would place this, but I think it'd be up there for me. And on that note, folks, I think we should get to it.
Cool.
I was confused then because you already had your glasses on.
Right, let's do it. Let's do the final thoughts and scores for the Court of Owls. Scott, you want to go first this time, mate?
Ooh, okay. The first thing I want to say is I don't think this book was written, this book was drawn, this book was crafted. It was, you could tell that so much thought had gone into it. Like, yes, I haven't read a lot of Batman before, but I could tell the amount of effort, and this just wasn't Batman does, Batman sees a problem, Batman solves a problem, Batman puts away bad guy. It wasn't that. It was a journey through like his own mental stability, his, it really challenging his detective skills, and all this kind of thing. And it's just awesome. The art is fantastic. Like, the whole, I think whenever we're talking about the art, I think automatically, and I hope we're all going to the labyrinth scenes where you see like he's kind of turning into an owl here and there, and it's just all fantastic. I'm not gonna blab on too much. I loved it. I'm happy I jumped in here. Thank you, Phil, for choosing this book. I think I do want to read on. I think I will read on, and I'm gonna give it 9.
Ooh, wow. Okay, that's thrown me a little bit, man. Because when you started talking, I thought it was going to be lower for you. This has gone up. Wow.
No, it's like you guys have helped me see a bit more, and I enjoyed it in the first place anyway. But yeah, I think I think he deserves that.
Okay, before we move on, just a reminder to everyone, you know the drill. If you've read along with us or you've read this previously, then drop your final thoughts and scores in the chat over there, and we will grab those and we'll see what everybody thought once we go round as well. Shane, do you want to go next, mate?
I loved it. What's not to love? The art's fantastic. The story's fantastic. The respect for the character is something I haven't seen for a good 5 years in the books. I'm not going to lie. This level of respect, I appreciate more than anything else. The fact that he loves Batman, and yeah, so I absolutely loved it. I didn't read it the first time round. Like when it first came out, I wasn't reading Batman at the time. I did jump back into Batman thanks to tie-ins, so I've read later stories. But I'm kind of gutted I didn't read this when it first came out, because I would have obviously had the individual issues, which are going for a bit much now. So that's a bit of a sucks for me. I absolutely loved it. The art is fantastic. Yes, faces are interchangeable, but artists have a style. Sometimes they can't help themselves. And the introduction of the Talons is fantastic, because out of this comes one of my favorite characters that doesn't last very long, a female Talon you'll meet in the next volume. But yeah, this for me is a 9 as well.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's a 9 from Shane. Phil, over to you, buddy.
Oh man, again, I'm a bit maybe sentimental towards this book, because it was the first book I can remember buying as an adult when I first started collecting hardcovers and stuff. But yeah, the same thing as Scott said. I think it was crafted. I think Snyder and Capullo's obviously planned this for a good while before they just jumped on the book. They knew what they wanted to do, and there's a reason why Snyder and Capullo stayed in the book for so long, and have done Bat books since, including Metal and so on. They're obviously trusted by DC, and this was the reason why. Yeah, the fact that they were able to introduce this kind of new level of threat, this new kind of court that has got Batman stuck and what he thought was right and so on. But yeah, art fantastic. I didn't like the faces, as Shane was saying, when they were just like Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson and stuff. That's the only thing that mark it down for me. Loved the book, loved reading it. I think it's my third or fourth time reading this now, and yeah, I can't give it any less than a 9, to be honest. I can't.
Ooh.
It's one of those weeks again.
Pressure, Ding. Pressure.
We've never had a clean sweep.
Why do you always do this to me? Like, put that on me at the end.
Because you're always last.
You're going to have to start giving your score first.
I was going to say I'm going to have to start going first. Like, before we get to mine, because I am going to keep mine brief this week. I just go through and we will see what everybody thought. So bear with me while I scroll back up to the top. I think we start here. So we've got Sean, the noob, saying 8.5 for him. Andy at Perpetual Comics, it's a 10. We have Adam, gives it a 7 out of 10. Says, I feel a bit harsh, but I've recently read The Black Mirror and preferred. Love the art. Coral gives it a 6 out of 10. We've got Slim Comics and More. He comes in with a 9 out of 10. It's an 8 from Highland G. I like Liam's comment here as well that says, Scott, I don't get the hype. Also, Scott, 9 out of 10.
I can appreciate a good story, all right?
Tom from This Month in Movie says, great story, brilliant art. What's not to like? 9 out of 10 for him. Albert Langford gives it a 10. 3G, probably a 9 for me. It's downhill after this, and they overused the court to death going forward. But this first initial run is top tier. We've got, hang on, I'm just jumping down. It's an 8-ish for Matt. And it's a 9 from Comic Bound, and it is an 8 out of 10 from Liam, who says it's a great book and we'll read it again and again. Hold on, because we've got more scores coming in to the sneaked in.
This is the most scores we've had from the viewers, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a lot of people excited for this. The Comic Room, we get a 9 from the Comic Room here. Solid 9, he says. Okay, right. So
Wow.
do you know what? I've actually run out of columns on on the spreadsheet here that we use. So I'm just going to do that. There we go.
You're going to do manual math now.
All right. So I've got all of those scores. I've got all of those. Don't worry. My final thoughts. Wrap up on this one is short and sweet. Love it. I think it's no secret that this isn't just about the Bat book or whatever. You get these guys together on a book, it's usually going to be good, man. Yeah, when you get Snyder and Capullo doing stuff, and this is absolute brilliant for. If you're a Batman fan, this should stand out for you. Like you said, the fear is there. It makes Batman feel vulnerable again. And I think we do get sometimes we hit those ruts with Batman where we do feel he loses a bit of that vulnerability in Gotham. Like it is his city. He can, do what he wants and, stop whoever, and this kind of brought that crashing down. It made Batman vulnerable. You felt the fear there, especially at that point when he's in the labyrinth. And things are being twisted. Genuinely kind of scary time for Batman. And that doesn't come up very much, in my opinion. Like, yeah, we have those things in the runs, but do we ever really think, oh, shit, this could be the end of Batman? You do in this, I think. You really do. So for me, folks, it's going to be an A. I'm joking, it's a 9.
The first ever clean sweep.
Wow.
Can I take it to 6 months?
Oh, wow.
So there you go.
The average there's then? What's that make it?
So let's get to the averages now. So the average score that everybody watching along gave it, having totaled all of those up, it's an 8.5.
Nice.
From everybody watching right now and participating. And for us, obviously, it's a 9. So let's see where a 9 falls on the Nerd Herd leaderboard. Where does that fall, folks?
Joint third.
Joint lock and key.
Joint lock and key. There we go. That's kind of weird. Like, we've had fairly lowish scores, I think, and now we've had like 2 9s in the space of a couple of weeks. That's awesome. But I love this. I genuinely did love this.
Yeah, I think it's a fair score too. I think, I'm obviously like not mentioning the hype and stuff about it, but it is a kind of pivotal, highly regarded book. So joint third seems good.
Yeah, I completely agree. It seems kind of fair. I'm not sure. I know that you're getting into that fractional dispute then. I know some people would maybe have this a little bit higher and some people would have it a little bit lower. But again, looking at the scores that everybody gave this, I think we're in a ballpark again, Right then, folks. Let's tell people what we're reading next week. Should we do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right then. So next week, folks, this was Shane's choice, and next week we'll be reading. Shane, do you want to tell them?
We will be reading Spider-Woman from 1993. This is Spider-Woman's second volume, so it's not Jessica Drew, it's Julia Carpenter's first run as Spider-Woman. It's only 4 issues.
Yes, 4 issues from Marvel in 1993. That is what we are reading next week.
Yes, first Marvel books I ever bought.
There we go. So hang on, we've had his first book that he bought today. We've got your first book that you bought.
That's last week.
Let's go.
Yeah, but
and Scott was last week. Fair point.
Yeah.
All right, then let's have a quick whiz around, and guys can tell everyone what you've got going on this week, and we'll end it with a few shout outs. I've got a few links to drop for people as well. So let's go. Which way round did we go last week?
No idea.
I think we started with Phil.
Let's go this way again. Come on, Phil. Go.
I just released a video just before we went live tonight, just the monthly comic book haul, so check that out.
God.
What?
You've done a video.
I know, I can't believe it. I'm trying a mini reboot.
With
I also
the new intro.
I know took me 5 minutes to make that. But
Show
yeah,
off.
I am planning on releasing the second one this Friday. Just kind of, I did start off a vlog at one point, and I feel like I need to finish doing some sort of stuff about the room and so on. So that'll be hopefully this Friday. if I can get off my backside to edit. So that's me for now. But I also want to say before we move on that this is also a birthday week, isn't it? We have a birthday this coming Friday.
We do.
We do.
32 years of age. Dean, is that right?
How dare you? 31.
sorry.
Yes, happy birthday for Friday.
Happy birthday, mate.
Bless you guys. Bless you.
To you.
Go, of course, go for it.
No, I'm not.
Shane, how about yourself? What you got going on this week, mate?
I don't have anything this week, but my quiz is still up and the competition is still going. So you can jump on and you can win some prizes if you can answer the hot word smash correctly.
Has anyone entered?
Yes, I have several entries, which means it's easier this time than it was last
Someone's
time.
going to win.
Yes, someone's definitely going to win this time. So yeah, if you head on over to my channel, you can watch the quiz and you can enter the competition.
Nice.
Yeah, it was good fun. The quiz. I recommend, even if you don't want to answer the question, just go and watch the outtakes, folks, at the end. It's worth it just for that.
Someone's a little salty.
Scott, how about yourself, mate?
Nothing this week, as I am away, as you can tell. But on the weekend, we had Comic Airwaves, and we are very close to activating the nice mug. We're very close to activating the next competition. We were after 40 likes on the video, and we're at 36. And I checked that a couple hours ago. So we need 4 more likes, and then we'll activate the competition for people to win a nice little lump of comics. And that's it. Amy and I will be doing a video in the next week or 2, and it'll be coming out on a weekend, I think. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, that's it from me at the moment.
Awesome. Is the video going to be on your channel, or is Amy
Yes.
starting her own thing?
No, it'll be on my channel. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go, folks. That is what is going on for everyone this week. If you don't know where those channels live, you'll find all the links in the description below. As for me, I will be back here next week, and I've got a few links to drop, a few important bits of information. Slim Comics and More, our friend, he's still having his 500 subscriber giveaway. I think he's really close now. I think it's about 13 away. So you can enter international in the competition that he's having as well. So head on over there if you've not entered already and subscribe to Slim.
Yeah,
and he's a legend, absolutely lovely guy. And we have a new member in the community as well. I always like it when we get to shout out new people. We have Job Block Comics, based here in the UK as well. I think they're putting out mystery boxes and stuff as well at the moment. So go and check them out. Say again, Scott.
Send it again to message me.
There you go. Job Block, if you're watching, message Scott. I tell you, actually, they have sent us one over for the Nerd Herd. And that will be next week, folks. It's going to be your turn at the end of next week's episode for you to recommend what you want us to read for the following week. And we're going to spread the love, and we're going to pass that mystery box on to whoever's story or comic that we choose.
Nice.
So that's up for grabs next week.
I'm going to make a fake account and enter a book.
That's all thanks to Joblot Comics. So go and subscribe to them. Yep, and check them out on Instagram as well. They're on Instagram, same name.
Awesome, will do. Can I just say one thing? I'm so sorry, I totally forgot. I'm on TB Collects on Friday. We are doing his first TB Talks, and I'm so sorry, Tyler. I didn't forget that I'm on the show. I just forgot to mention it here. I'm so sorry. So that's 5 US time, 10 p.m. UK time. On
there
TB
you go.
Collects.
We didn't forget about you, Tyler. Don't you worry. So that's it, really. That's all I wanted to shout out. So that's Joblot Comics, and they're doing the mystery boxes. They have give us one to give away next week.
Nice.
And Slim, go and enter Slim's competition. So that's it, really. I think that is it for episode 26. Have I missed anything?
Liam's just put a little thing in the comments here saying, also Comic Airways related, don't forget to drop a task or challenge for the new Scott versus Phil section. We don't decide, you get to decide.
So there you go, folks. Send Liam your messages for the tasks and the challenges there. Okay then, folks. That is episode 26, 6 months in. Happy 6-month anniversary.
Yay!
Let's get drunk.
And for all those that have joined us live, thank you very much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to hang out and see what you guys think about these comic books. And on that note, we will see you next week for Spider-Woman. And Shane?
Get your waves out.
Happy birthday, Jane.
Happy birthday.